Brilliant. Hi, good morning. Welcome to Road Mapping Your Business for Success. This is the very first workshop in the Pioneer Club membership. So I'm so excited if you're here. If you're here live, hello, good morning, good afternoon. If you're watching the recording as well, hello, I hope you're going to find this useful. So what I'm going to do is I just wanted to come in and say hello quickly in person. I'm going to switch over and share my screen in a second and just talk you guys through the workshop there. And then when we come back to the Q&A at the end, I'll come back on the screen and talk to you guys. The workshop obviously is being recorded for those that can't make the live session, but the Q&A will not be recorded simply because I want you guys to feel really comfortable to ask whatever specific questions you need to. So yeah, feel free throughout the workshop to pop your questions in the Q&A tab at the bottom of the webinar, and then I'll come around to them at the end and talk through all of them. All right, so I'm going to share my screen now. Itchy nose. And we can get going. Okay, you should be able to see my screen now, I believe. Perfect. Okay, so road mapping your business for success. This is probably one of the most important things that I teach my clients. It is the foundation of everything that I believe is required to make your business a real success. And road mapping is so important, and scarily enough, there are so many businesses that don't use it or are even aware of it. So hopefully by the end of this session, you guys will have a better understanding of what road mapping is and how you can implement it in your business. Most of you already know me, but my name is Juliana Grazekamp, or most of you know me as Jules. I am a business coach and blogger for female entrepreneurs. My background, I started a cake company when I was 16, selling cupcakes from my locker in high school. And I grew that over the next 10 years to be one of the largest independent cake companies in the country. So I have background in product and bricks and mortar. And then obviously now I run an online business as well, which is service-based. So I work with clients across both fields. So what we're going to cover today, we're going to go over why you need to roadmap. Obviously, like I said, it's really important. And we're going to talk about the 3 stages of road mapping. We're going to talk through how to make a game plan. We're going to talk about setting the right goals. And then we're actually going to workshop a roadmap for either for one of you, or if you're not comfortable, then we can just use an example. And then obviously, like I say, we'll have the Q&A at the end, but that will not be recorded. So before we start, actually, I just want you guys, if you have a bit of paper, or if you're using your computer or whatever, I just want you to just take a minute here and to just write down a couple of goals. Ignore the screen, not your end game, just random goals. They can be big goals, they can be small goals, just anything that pops into your head, just a few, 2 or 3 random goals that you want to focus on in your business. Don't think about it too hard. Just write down whatever comes into your head. I'll give you a second to do that. Okay. Okay, we're gonna come back to that later. So just like put it to the side, don't think about it again, just like leave it there. We're gonna come back to it. So I wanna know as well, ask yourself, how many of you can honestly answer the question, what is your end game? And by that, I mean the ultimate goal of your business. What do you ultimately want to do? What would be the dream for you to achieve with your business? And how many of you can actually honestly say that you have an answer to that question? If you're not sure, the good news is that you're not alone. Surprisingly, I've worked with startups and small businesses in all shapes and sizes across various industries for years, and it's unbelievably common how many of them do not have an answer to this question. So a lot of people, you ask them what is their business goal, either they don't have an answer, or more commonly, they don't have a real answer. They say something super vague like, to be as successful as possible, or to grow it as big as I can, or to see where I can take it. Or they have an answer which is playing it safe. You know, something that's just kind of not dreaming as big as they could be, not reaching their full potential. And it's not because they don't have the imagination or the ambition, but it's just because we think it's obnoxious or presumptuous. or we listen to the limits that are put on us by friends and family and society. We think it's safer and better to just go along as we do and take it one step at a time and not get ahead of ourselves. But here's the thing. If you don't know exactly where you're going, how the hell can you ever expect to get there? If you don't know what you're trying to achieve, how can you possibly make a plan to achieve it? Not having a plan is the biggest mistake that business owners can make. Too many business owners are thinking forward. You might think that looking forward is the right way to be, but it's not. They're doing this the wrong way around. So there's so much emphasis on starting and launching and just growing that there's no real strategy in place a lot of the time. And a lot of people are looking at this like, I'm working on this, what's next? What's next? And they're treating it, their lives really, like a game. So we start out on square one, like at the start of a board game, and then we're just working through that level until we can move on to the next one. We work through it, we've completed it, we level up, we go on to the next square. This can work, like if you hustle and you really put your head down, you know, everything, you can be pretty successful this way. It can work. But if you want to achieve really big things, if you want to do something really special, this is not enough. It's also the hard way to do things. It's the long way around, it's difficult, and it's not going to be enough if you want to do something really, really special. For the real magic, you need to know exactly where you want to go and work backwards. You need to work backwards to figure out exactly how you're going to get there. So if you just think of some successful people, think of anyone that you deem to be extremely successful. It can be in sports or business or music, whatever. Okay, does anyone think that any of these people got where they are by accident? Does anyone think any of them said, oh, I'll just see how far I can go? Or do you think they just kind of wanted to stumble along and see where they could take it? Or do you think they decided exactly what they wanted and they had a game plan to make it happen? You wouldn't go out on a long distance journey without knowing where you're going and how you're going to get there. So why would you do it with your business? I don't understand. It baffles me. Like the number of business owners that just start out in business and wait to see where it takes them. If you want to create something special, you need to decide what that is, work backwards, make a plan, follow that plan and make it happen. I cannot say this enough. I cannot stress this enough. You need to have a plan. So now that I think I've drilled that point in, how do you do that? So there are 3 stages of road mapping. And yes, I'm using cake because that is my background and it is the most familiar thing. And also I think everyone just likes to look at some cake. So there are 3 stages of road mapping. There's the end game, which I'm going to talk through what all these are more specifically in a minute. The end game is obviously kind of the bigger picture. There's the goals, which are the things that need to happen along the way. And then there's the tasks. So each one is what needs to happen to make the bigger one come true. So if we go into this in a bit more detail, the end game, like I say, is the bigger picture. It is the ideal scenario. And you write this down as a flagpole to refer back to. You know, when you're not sure what you're doing, you go back to this and you look at it and you think, okay, am I still on track for this? So your end game is your big dream, the big bad business goal that you want to accomplish. Or the entire cake in this example. The goals are the stepping stones along the way. So they're milestones. They're things that have to happen in order for that the end game to come true, basically. They're just like parts of it. So these are going to be broken down into quarterly, monthly, and weekly goals. And these ones should be reassessed and adjusted. So where the end game is something that you flagpole and you look back to, the goals are going to change. Like you need to pivot, you need to adapt. It would be really silly if you made one set strategy now for the next 10 years and you said, okay, I'm never going to stray from this, because things change and there are factors that you can't control and you might want to go about things a different way. So you need to be able to reassess and adjust and pivot as you go, and that's part of the goals. Then the tasks these are bite-sized tasks. So these are like the everyday things that are simple and achievable, like daily tasks, and they're going to form up your action plan. So once you have a goal, for example, like a milestone goal, you're then going to break that down into tasks that you can figure out on a day-to-day basis what you should be doing in order to make that goal happen. And the goals are happening in order to make the end goal happening. So basically what you're doing is you're breaking it down until you have a step-by-step action plan. Then all you have to do is follow the path that you made for yourself. Sounds easy, right? Well, believe me, once you start doing this, you're going to wonder how you ever did it the hard way. You just break everything down into tiny, easy tasks, and the whole plan becomes easy. Then you're just taking it step by step, following each of those tasks, which will form each of your goals, and just keep executing those simple tasks until you achieve the end goal. It is literally that simple. I know you're thinking it's not that easy. It is, I promise you. Once you just make the path for yourself, all you have to do is follow it. The difficult part is in making the path and planning it out properly and making the strategy. So there are some rules to make sure that you are going about this the right way and doing it effectively. So I want to ask as well, I know we're not actually physically here, but just think about as well, how many of you have a to-do list? And then how many of you have at least one task that has been living on that list for months? I know even I do, like it happens. It's not because you're bad at executing, it is because you're not making the right goals. You're not doing it effectively. So you want to make sure that when you're making these goals and these tasks, that you're setting the right ones and that you're doing it in the best way possible. So how do you do that? They're called SMART goals. And if you guys have downloaded my goals worksheet, you'll have seen this already. I know that some of you have, but I'm going to run through it anyway. And then it's just an important part of running through the rest of the road mapping process. So if you've seen this before, I apologize, but it's an important part. So every single task that makes it on your to-do list should be a SMART goal. It needs to be straightforward and easy, so there's no reason for you not to knock every single one out of the park. With every task, it should be written down as if you're writing it for an employee. Like if you were working with an employee, you wouldn't give them a vague, wishy-washy task and expect them to get it done. So why would you get it done? If your employee can't do it, how would you do it? So every single goal should be specific. So if it's vague, it's never going to happen. There's no clear direction or instruction. You need to know exactly what it is you're aiming for. For example, something like get your finances in order is not a specific goal. Something like set up your accounting program and enter new invoices is a better starting point. It should be something that is measurable. So you should be able to track your progress, use numbers or actual measurable targets to determine what success looks like. Rather than grow Instagram following, you want to say something like by how much. So you have a specific target to hit. So I want to get to 2,000 followers. The next is it should be something actionable. So rather than broad goals for what you'd like to accomplish, you want to set actual tasks that you can achieve and lead up to the bigger picture goal. So like we were talking about before with the cake that's broken down into bite-sized chunks, you want to make sure that these are actually bite-sized. You know, if you're trying to bite off more than you can chew, you're never going to get that task done. It's going to live on your list forever. So a broad statement like start a podcast is never going to happen. You want to write down five specific topic ideas for your first podcast. Oh my God, I'm getting tongue-tied now. For your first podcast, it's much more likely to get off the tarmac. Making sure they're realistic, so something you can actually achieve. That doesn't mean that you shouldn't aim big. It just means that you want to, again, make it bite-sized. It's something that you can fit on your fork, like that piece of cake. And they should all be time-based. If you do not have a deadline, there is no pressure for you to get this done on time. You need to hold yourself accountable and decide when things are going to happen. Always, every single task should have a deadline. Again, if you don't have my goals workbook, you guys can get it here. Those of you that have it already, thank you so much. But I will put a link at the end as well where you can go and get that if you don't have it already. Okay, so I want to go back now to the tasks that you guys wrote down at the very start of the workshop, the ones that you wrote down where I said, just make a list of some random goals. And I want you to look back at those and figure out, are any of those SMART goals? And if they're not, I want you to, not right now because we're going to go into something else, but if they're not, I want you guys to rewrite them as SMART goals. You can post them in the Facebook group if you like. I want you to rewrite them as SMART goals and then just see what a difference that makes over the next few weeks to whether or not you actually achieve them. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now for a second. Stop share. There we go. Okay. And then what we're going to do now is I'm actually going to workshop a roadmap with one of you, or I will use an example. So is there anyone in here who actually wants to go through it with their own business? If there is, just pop it in the chat just now if you'd like to workshop your own roadmap. Give you a second. If not, it's okay. It's quite a vulnerable thing to do it in front of people, to just have to go through your business. So what I'll do is instead I will use an example. So if I just go back to sharing my screen now, there is, sorry, bear with me. It does not want to work with me today. There we go. Can you see my screen? Okay. So if you are in the membership dashboard, if you hit training here, you don't have to do this right now because I'm going to talk you through it. You can do this later. So, oh, I've got to check. Oh, you want to go? Okay, perfect, cool. Let me just pull you up then. What I'm going to do is I'm actually going to make you able to speak to me on here, if that's okay. Allow to talk. Okay, you might need to unmute yourself. Oh, hang on, I think I can do it for you. Yeah, I think you might need to unmute yourself, Victoria. Can you say something? No, I can't hear you. So there should be like a little button on the bottom left of your screen. If you move your mouse, there should be a little button with a microphone and it'll have a red line through it. If you press that, I should be able to hear you. Oh, sleeping baby, I see. Okay, no problem. That's fine. What I'll do then is, because this would be, I'd need to be able to talk to you. So yeah, I'll go through with the example, but you should be able to apply it to your own business, no problem. But thank you for volunteering anyway. Yeah, it needs to be kind of a talking thing because there's quite a lot of information on there. But yeah, thank you for volunteering. That's very brave. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen. Share. Okay. So yeah, in the training thing here, if you go down to worksheets, there's one here called Roadmap Your Business. And again, you don't have to do this right now because I'm going to talk you through it at the moment, but later on, that's how you're going to access it. And just as a side note, with any of the worksheets here, these are read only. So what you want to do always is click here, File, and make a copy. And that'll allow you to have your own copy in your own Google Drive that you can edit and save and do whatever you like with. But this is my copy, so it's fine. So the way this works is basically, like I say, it's all about breaking things down. So Victoria, I'm not going to use your business as an example, but I know you only just came in a bit later on there. I'm not sure how much you saw about the actual road mapping process, but it's all laid out here again. And again, you can catch the recording as well if you didn't see it earlier. So the idea behind it, again, is just taking everything and making it bite-sized, breaking it down until it's a stepping stone map of where you want to go. So with that, we have to start with the bigger picture goal, right? So you want to start with thinking about what is, in an ideal world, the ultimate end goal for your business. And you don't want to think too small here. You don't want to be modest. You don't want to be humble like we talked about earlier. Don't let any of those limits be put on you. Think genuinely, what is your biggest, baddest business goal? And honestly, there are two steps to achieving your business goals. The first one is deciding that you're going to do it. And the next one is figuring out how. So this first part of deciding what it is that you want is very important, because if you don't have this, the rest of it is just, it's not going to matter, because you're not going to be able to figure out where you're going. You're not going to figure out how to get there if you don't know where you're going. So I'm going to use an example of, let me think. Well, do you know what? Since we've been talking about the cakes and everything, I'll just continue with that. So let's say, like, for example, when I started, my dream, let's say, was to become the biggest independent cake company in Scotland. So you want to think about what that would look like. You want to think specifically. You don't just want to say something like, I want to have a big business. You want to think, what does that mean to you? What does that look like? You know, what are the specifics? So let's say it was that you want to be the biggest in the country. You want to have 4 cake shops across the country, and you want to be bringing in $1 million in turnover. So you would write all that down here. So let's just write that down quickly. So 1 million turnover, biggest cake company in the country. Oh, spelling mistakes already. And what else did I say? Let's say 4 shops. I was confused. Scotland's a lot smaller than America and Canada, so 4 shops was quite a lot. So you want to also think not just about the business goals, but you want to think about what your life would look like in this ideal world, because business is important, but the rest of your life is also a huge part of this component of this ideal world. So you want to think about things like, you know, where you want to be living, how much time you want to be spending on your business, you know, whether you want to also have time to spend with your family. These are all important factors. So like for me, I wanted to have time to travel. That was always really important to me. And I don't have a family, but you know, if I did, that would have been a part of it as well. And then, you know, anything like you want to be living comfortably, say you want to be paying yourself, I don't know, 200K. That's just a random number. You know, you want to just list down what all the parts of your life look like that aren't necessarily specific to the business, but are still a part of your life. So you want to have those down there. And the reason behind this, it's not because you're trying to guess what your life's going to look like, but the point is just to start to build a picture of what it is that you want. And again, it's all about figuring out what you're working towards. If you don't have that end goal in sight, then how are you going to work towards it? So that doesn't mean this isn't going to change. Like I say, you have to be able to adapt and pivot, but it's just to give you something to aim for, to have that vision. And it just makes getting there a hell of a lot easier. So then what you want to do is look at your end goal, and you're going to break that down into kind of smaller milestones. I've picked 5 here. You can do more, you can do less, but you want to think about what are the big turnstone moments along the way towards that. So with here, if the end game is to, you know, be the biggest cake company in the country, then for that, you know, a milestone would be to be the biggest in the city that you're in. Because you need to start somewhere, right? You need to be able to say, okay, you're the biggest in the city, and then you grow to something else. I don't know why these are formatting weirdly, but it doesn't really matter. And then another one would be, you know, if we want to have 4 shops, then a milestone would be to open the first shop. And then if the turnover of $1 million, so let's say a turnover of $250,000, that's the third, $250,000 turnover. So I'm not going to do all 5. That's probably example enough. So you're just going to break it down into these milestones that you need to work towards that are just a bit more achievable than the really, really big picture goals. Because you don't want to not have the big picture goals, but also they're a bit much to try and work from right off the bat, right? So it's all about, like I say, making it more bite-sized, making it easier to achieve. So this is just giving you kind of smaller targets along the way to work towards. Okay, so now you're going to take the first milestone, and you're going to do this for every single one. And this is, like I say, this is a little bit of work, but it's so worth it in the end. So you're going to take the first milestone, which is to be the biggest cake company in the city in this example. And then you're going to just brain dump absolutely everything that needs to happen for that to become a reality. So don't think too hard about this, because we're going to make them more specific later. But just write down literally everything. Like, okay, if I want to be the biggest cake company in the city, I need to have a killer website, and I need to become recognized as a local brand. Maybe your business isn't local, so this wouldn't apply, but you get the point. You would take whatever milestone it is and work out what you need for it. And then I would probably need to hire a team, and I would need to increase sales to, let's say, well, if you were just starting out, I don't know, it depends at what stage you were. Let's say in this example, increase sales to 10,000 a quarter, let's say. I cannot type today. So again, I'm not going to go through absolutely everything that you could put here, but the idea is to just brain dump it all down there, and you have it all there so that you know, okay, in order for this first milestone to happen, every single one of these things has to become a reality first. And then it's all just breaking it down. You're going to rewrite these as SMART goals. So you know, rather than say have a killer website, you're going to say what actually are the components of that make it a SMART goal. So you're going to say you want to have what kind of website. I want to have an e-commerce store where people can purchase, it needs to be, you know, if it's a killer website, it'll be getting a lot of hits. So you want it to be getting, say, 5,000 hits a month, and you want it to be finished in the next 2 months so that you're ready to launch. So all these kind of things you want to think about. And you want to break down into all the SMART goals that you're going to need to make each of these happen. It's all just breaking it down. And then you're going to organize these SMART goals into the next year. You're going to say, okay, well, you know, in this first quarter, I'm going to have the website. And then the next quarter, I'm going to focus on increasing sales. Obviously, I'm just writing these down quickly, but you would write the whole full form SMART goal here, rather than just the, oh my God, I cannot type today. Yeah, you would write the full form SMART goals here. And then, because what we're going to do after that is then break them down even further. So these are the general projects that we're going to be working on. So website, sales, let's say new recipes. I don't know, I'm just thinking off the top of my head here. But whatever you've written here and here, you're going to plan them out basically into, so these are the quarters. So obviously, if you're starting in January, which a lot of you will be because we're in December now, it'd be like January, February, March, April, May, June, so through that way. Then you're going to take that first quarter. It's a lot of breaking down, but I promise you it's going to make everything so much easier. And then you're going to break that down into those 3 months and say, okay, well, this month I need to research developers that are going to build my website. I need to plan the content that are going to go on that website. I need to take pictures of the cakes for the website. And like, you're going to work through everything that needs to happen and break those down into smaller tasks. And then, you know, this is, again, this goes down to monthly. But you want to take this down eventually to weekly and daily as well. So I'm not going to have you guys break those down in this worksheet because that is very, very specific then to what you're doing in that particular week. But then what I do is I put everything into, personally, I use Asana, and I might actually do a workshop about Asana specifically because I find it really useful for scheduling out tasks and things like this. But the idea is that you will then, by the end of it, every single day you'll have planned out, or every single week even, you'll have planned out the really easy actionable tasks that are going to happen. So, you know, researching developers, that's something you can wake up in the morning, you can go, okay, I can do that. If you wake up in the morning and you look at this and it says, I need to have a killer website, you're going to be paralyzed. You're going to think, how am I going to do this? It's too much to bite off. It's like that whole slice of cake rather than the bite-sized chunk that we were looking at earlier. And it's just going to be overwhelming and it's just going to stay on your list and it's not going to get done. So when you break it down to this research developers, you wake up and you go, okay, I can do that. You know exactly how to do it. You know exactly what needs to happen. You know how to make it a reality, and it's a lot easier. And once you've done this with absolutely everything on this worksheet, it just becomes, like I said earlier in the thing here, it just becomes like stepping stones. So then, you know, this is the end game. And then say, maybe this is, in the example we were using, this is where you have 4 stores, and this is where you have 3 stores and 2 stores and 1 stores. And then it just becomes literally going through the plan that you've already made, instead of looking forward, like we said earlier, and trying to think, what's next, what's next? You already know what's next. You already know what you're working on here and here and here, and you're just working through the plan and following it as best you can. And like I say, you want to be able to adapt and change as you go, but if you have that plan, you're going to get there so much easier and so much faster than if you're just trying to figure it out as you go. So having that end goal is going to make so much difference. So yeah, I think what I'm going to do, actually, I'm going to wrap up the example there because I don't want to get too specific about the cake store. I'm aware that probably doesn't apply to many of you. So I'm going to close this out actually and just come back on to talk to you. Can you guys see me? Okay. Yeah. So that's the basics of road mapping. Yeah, like I said, the idea is that you want to just have a strategy in place. If you don't know where you're going, there is no way that you're going to be able to get there. If you don't have a strategy, you're not going to be able to grow something really big and special. And just stumbling along and trying to figure out what's next, it can work, but it's so much harder, and there's much less chance of you achieving something really, really special if you do it that way. So you want to be able to just have that end game, work backwards, break everything down into tiny, tiny little bite-sized steps, and then just follow the stepping stones, follow the plan. It makes it so much easier. So I want you guys to get into that training page and then download the road mapping worksheet, and just try and fill it out as best you can. And that's gone through an example for like one milestone, but you want to be able to do that for all your major milestones. You want to plan out everything that you're going to be doing over the next week, month, quarter, year, to be able to make those milestones happen. And please feel free, if you want to share your finished roadmaps with me. I'd love to kind of look through them with you. But yeah, you want to be able to go through that with all the individual milestones that you have, and make sure that you're just setting that plan in place. And like I say, you're going to be able to breathe easier knowing that you can wake up in the morning and just look at, okay, what's on the agenda today? What's on the plan today? What am I doing today to make this happen? And it should all be easy, simple, actionable steps. So yeah, I'm going to wrap that up here.